Mary, how will you address the problem of persistent and aggressive panhandling in Atlanta?
Well, we clearly have to redo the ordinances again. We set up the tourist triangle, and there was a lot of angst about that. But one of the things that I have done over the course of my career, before I was a council person and then since I've been a council person, is I never let anybody panhandle me. I always make you work before I will pay you any money. And it started out very ad hoc, where I would say, if you'll pick up all the trash from that door to that window over there, I'll come back in 10 minutes and I'll give you $2 or whatever. So I've never allowed myself to be panhandled, and I'm just courageous. It doesn't matter to me. And so I did that as the chair of the Clean City Commission during the time of the Olympics, and we cleaned up a lot of the city. I then reinstituted that program when I went to City Hall. I was disappointed that in our entire Regional Commission on Homelessness, with the opening of the Gateway Center, we didn't have a strong work component. We need a WPA kind of program. We've got a city that needs right-of-way cutting, that needs trash picked up. We say we're a tourist city. We say we have these beautiful neighborhoods, and yet we have dishevelment. And I have several different ways that we can implement such a system that will not be costly to taxpayers, but will get our city clean. As a matter of fact, when I was on council, I went to the Department of Transportation and got the commissioner to give $350,000 to the city to pay homeless men and women to de-litter the interstate ramps and state roads inside the city limits. The city never processed the paperwork. The men and women did the job. DOT took the money back. I said, I have to run for mayor. If I can do something that is free to the city, good for the city, and helps the least of these, I have to run for mayor.
You mentioned the Gateway Center, and we think that's one of the success stories that Mayor Franklin has done, but our police officers feel that the Pine Street shelter is still an attractive nuisance that's not participating in Mayor Franklin's vision for getting people to work, getting people out of homelessness and into jobs and productive living. How do you feel about the Pine Street shelter?
What I said, I was with with Miss Beatty the other day at the Concerned Black Clergy, and I'm glad Mr. Martin is here because he was there as well. And I said to Miss Beatty, Anita, you and I have talked about operational issues. There are a lot of operational issues with that shelter, and I believe that if you are a shelter in this town, that there are some things that you can do to keep your shelter safe and to keep the area around your shelter safe. So I believe that we need to have good rules for any of these uses that we have in town, whether they're supportive housing uses, whether they are homeless shelters, whatever they are. You need to be a good neighbor. And when we have a shelter that is not maintaining a modicum of control outside their front door, we have issues. And I so stated, I will certainly work to resolve those issues, but we have issues. And what we need to do in our city is to have a work program so that we can disaggregate the term homeless. Right now, the term homeless is a catch-all phrase for hustlers, for people with mental challenges, for people with addiction challenges, and the truly homeless. That just yesterday, the mom with the 2 kids, arrives in Atlanta. If there are no other issues, we can get them stabilized relatively quickly. So what we need to do is to disaggregate that catch-all phrase and have better strategies for each of those subcategories.
You mentioned the Atlanta Police Foundation earlier and the work they're doing advising the mayor and council. That's a privately funded mechanism that does public service work, buying equipment, paying for programs. Recently, I checked their Crime Stoppers program online, and our officers were concerned that there's nothing current on their webpage regarding the Georgia Tech crimes or recent crimes in our neighborhood. Pictures up, and they're very current, and yet the Police Foundation hasn't been. How would you hold this semi-public service accountable?
Well, Lou, in my life, I have worked for over 39 different nonprofits in over 100 different volunteer capacities. I am busy. So in every one of those organizations, many of which were United Way, all of our information is all public. So anytime you are a nonprofit, all of your information should be public. So I am a person, and all of our city information should be public. We are operating with other people's money, OPM. So it's the citizens' money. I intend to make it totally transparent and totally accountable and totally understandable, because when you give someone a book this thick, you don't expect them to understand it. So I am a big believer in making the information succinct and understandable. I come out of radio, I got a lot of sound bites.
So should the police foundation be accountable to you as mayor or to the police chief or?
Both.
Okay.
And to the citizens.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned earlier about the fragmentation of services in downtown, the overlap of Georgia State Police, Georgia State Patrol, Georgia World Congress Center. As mayor, how can you make this confusing array of police services more efficient, more effective to our citizens?
Well, I think we need to bring everyone together. I mean, the mayor's role is to collaborate with or to cause the collaboration of disparate groups. And so I would want to work with all of them in holding a high-level task force or people to get together and to figure out how we can keep our citizens safe. We know that when we got these different groups and they are fractured, that we are not providing the best service that we can provide for the citizens. And anybody who knows me knows I am very forthright, very independent, and will get in the weeds. So if I need to go and pay a visit to each of the 5 different departments, I will go do that and personally invite them to come and participate in not just discussions. We do a lot of meeting and talking in this town. I am a woman of action. I'm going to get a plan, and we're going to go do something. So we're going to think it through thoughtfully, but we are not going to spend years and years and have yet another 25 plans on shelves.
Okay, you described earlier a pattern of working with technical advisory committees, and yet the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council within the city of Atlanta has virtually gone away. It used to coordinate police, fire, radio, and technology issues. Is that something you'll consider bringing back?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you get people around a table who have the knowledge and the expertise, you get so much done. So clearly we need to do that.
The people have talked to me about problems within the police department and how they have to call their city council member. And our city council members have become, as you said earlier, de facto customer service departments. As mayor, how would you aspire to get our council members back focused on policy and out of complaints?
Well, it's not so much out of complaints, Lou, as the complaints have to be handled. If the administration doesn't handle the complaints, believe me, that system will never change. Every city council person who's elected by a district or at large will want to serve the people that elected them. So what the mayor needs to do is to have the coordination between the departments, and that's why I want a city manager, county manager type of person that has that understanding of how to work with elected officials in delivering services to more than just one person. Right now, we may see the chief operating officer once every 6 months. That is not effective coordination. I also will be a mayor who will work actively with all 15 council people, not just someone. Let me put it this way. In 20 years, I have watched mayors who have found their favorites, and they all get their starting lineup, but they don't get their second string. So if you lose 1 or 2 members of that starting lineup for whatever reason, then you're sunk. But more importantly, philosophically, if you're going to be the mayor of a major U.S. city, you have to get up every day and work with all 15 council people, not just your favorites. And you've got to get up the next day and do the same thing again. You don't have the luxury of not working with everyone. That's what leadership is all about.